In this episode of Denoise, a quick recap of WWDC.
40 Gaussian Splats are finally here.
And a couple interesting AI papers, including storing AI memory in MP4 files. Let's get into it. What's up, Addy? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. How was your vacation?
Good, yeah. I went to Palm Springs. It was very hot, but it was nice. Nice place we stayed at and just able to chill. And
I love summers here in LA.
Decompress. Yeah, it was it was getting spicy. It's going to get even spicier there. But it's also crazy because you drive like 2 hours and a temperature change of like 25 degrees.
Microclimates in LA, it's a thing.
Yeah, but no, that was a lot of fun. And Palm Springs is great. Just got cool, the mid-century vibes.
Mid-century modern, the classic cars. It's like a town that's just a time capsule.
Yeah, it's got that fun 50s vibe still. All right, so the WWDC keynote was this morning.
Yeah.
I checked it out. All right, interesting. Nothing crazy. Nothing, because last year, a year ago, was when they teased or announced the Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we're going to have a whole dedicated camera for shooting immersive videos. Nothing in the film world that crazy. Nothing overall that was really that crazy. The biggest thing was their new UI update across the board. They're redoing the entire look and they're calling it liquid glass. Mm-hmm. And so it is a very much more transparent, glassy looking effect that's going across the board. I feel a bit about it.
You're way nicer to Apple than I am going to be for the next few minutes.
All right. What's your...
Oh boy, did they miss the mark on AI.
I mean, I would just love... Well, AI is separate. I'm talking about this new... We can go on the AI rant later. I'm talking about specifically liquid glass and their new design. I mean, I'm like bring back skeuomorphism, bring back the physical notepad.
It's pretty dope. I like it. And from all, like, iOS needs a facelift, and as newer devices can support better GPU, better rendering, better graphics.
Yeah.
This is something that could fill up the space. But Apple just dropped a liquid glass video on YouTube right after the conference. The first thought that went through my mind was, why don't you use extra GPU to run an AI process in the background instead of doing fancy graphics? That really doesn't move the needle.
Yeah. When they played a promo for their upcoming Apple TV shows, it had this new liquid glass typeface.
Yeah.
It's hard to see. It was hard to see the text. And I remember there's some comments online too of just like, oh, rest in peace, accessibility, which to Apple's credit, they're usually really, really good with accessibility. So I'm sure there's a lot of options to turn this off or make it more legible. But for the just general branding marketing, it was like a little squinting to read the titles of the shows they were advertising with this translucent glass looking font display.
I gotta say, like, from a creative design perspective, it's pretty novel. I think it's pretty neat that this is all coming together. Timing couldn't be worse. Right? Like, just look at it optically.
Also, comparing it to like Google I/O, which
exactly,
had
or Microsoft Build,
mountains of new updates and innovative releases. Yeah. And Apple, we're talking about the first biggest thing was they're making it glassy. They did talk about Apple Intelligence, and what did he say? He said something to the effect of Apple Intelligence with Siri coming later in the year. It took more work than we thought it would to reach our high quality bar.
I mean, sure, I could see that. Apple's strategy is maybe this, and I'm just speculating with you here. It's like, look, the iPhone as a platform in everybody's pocket, billions of them around the world, that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So even if we don't innovate on AI, other people are going to put their stuff out on iOS, on iPads, on iPhones, on watches anyway.
Yeah, and they are opening up more control to features and stuff on the iPhone. They did have an AI update. So it's the foundation models framework. So I think it is their version, their model. It can run locally on the phone, and they're opening it up where developers can access it.
Yeah,
it doesn't really do much. I mean, it's stuff that we've sort of seen already of like some writing suggestions, the Genmoji stuff. It doesn't do a ton. You can open up Apple Intelligence and give it access to ChatGPT, and they have a partnership with OpenAI, so you have to go into the settings and turn it on. It's not like on by default. You can give it access to ChatGPT, and then that gives you access to all of the better benefits of ChatGPT.
Fair enough. I think the issue here is if you are one step behind today, you're 10 steps behind tomorrow, right? So an example is, okay, fine, you don't innovate on AI. You've got this incredible hardware platform. Everybody uses iPhones. Nobody can even think of you doing anything other than, a lot of people that are not upgrading their phone this year, they're going to upgrade next year. They're going to keep buying Apple products, you and me included. So what happens when a disruptive new piece of hardware that relies heavily on AI comes out, whether it's an updated AR glass from Meta, or the Johnny Ive OpenAI collab, whatever they're working on.
Wearable device thing.
Or it could be some startup out of nowhere, then that gets acquired by Google, and now Google's making this killer hardware, right? So like you're opening yourself up to major disruption if you're not innovating.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, but we've talked about this before. Like Apple has also never really been first. They, see what's coming out, and then they just usually do it better. In this case, that was not the case. Yeah. I mean, I still think, look, they won the higher end smartphone.
And it's the aspirational product, right? Like people in less developed countries who have Androids want an iPhone, right? That's the one to move up to.
To your point, where they could get disrupted, and where this other battle is in other wearable devices, like categories that aren't really developed or that they don't own yet, like glasses is probably going to be the next big one.
And also, they have significant investment in silicon now, right? Like the M3, M4 chips are so good; it's so above and beyond what you need for day-to-day use for your laptop.
Yeah.
Like even if a new AI application lands on this Apple silicon, they're still good for a while, so they don't have to custom invent AI hardware anytime soon. You're not looking at like Apple deploying NVIDIA like departments within Apple to just build AI specific libraries and hardware. I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they are building their own model and that can run on the device, but nothing like to the extent of NVIDIA.
Yeah, I will say like building your own model is very vague in that sense. Like students, PhD students at universities are building their own models. So it's not really saying much.
Right. I mean, I'm curious what more. I mean, also this is the keynote. It's more for general audience. I'm sure because they have hundreds of talks this week because it's the developer conference. There's probably more details about what that foundation models framework is. So I'm curious. We'll try to dig in more in the future of like if they have talks that come out online. Because I remember too when they announced the Apple Vision Pro and the spatial video, it was sort of glossed, it was like spatial video, but then they had more dedicated talks of like the MV-HEVC file codec and stuff that they came out later in the week, and it was like, okay, we're able to get more details about things when we want to tech out and learn more about what does that actually mean.
Yeah, I think Apple maybe should, first of all, just a major disappointment in my personal opinion that one of the most valuable companies on the planet, if not the most valuable, has nothing to really show in the most exciting technology in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, they did dig themselves into hot water, because it's like last year they had all these big, announcements, and it was like, oh, this is what you expected, where it's like you can talk, Siri will be smarter, you can talk to Siri, it can communicate and do things on your phone in like a much more natural language, built an event and all of that. And then they hyped it up with the
Apple Intelligence
built into the iPhone 16, and then with the ad, and then it didn't deliver.
That's why I bought the iPhone 16.
Yeah, are you part of the class action lawsuit or whatever?
Oh, is there?
There is a class action lawsuit because it's like, oh, you sold all these things and like nothing really delivered.
The Apple fanboy in me doesn't want to sue Apple. And as much as I hate to criticize them, like I just want them to do better.
Yeah. I mean, there was a Bloomberg article from like a month ago that was dug into like why they had so many issues. And it was basically like, well, the part of Siri that like does the logical things, it's very like calculator, set a timer, if then kind of stuff, and the ChatGPT kind of part, I'm losing my words, but of the like
the natural language, natural response,
but that's still a large language model, which is still predictive at its core. The two would not. It was way more complicated to connect and sync the two.
That totally makes sense because
they anticipated.
Siri's like, hey, make me a calendar for 12 p.m. tomorrow. That stuff was done like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Right, and that's like a very definitive, like, there's no like, oh, well, probability of 12:30 or 12:50. It's like, you got to set the clock for this accurate time or this event. And getting that to communicate with, merging it with an LLM and making it perform the way you expect it to was where they got stuck.
I'd imagine that's not that hard. But again, the only thing I'll give them is they're deploying this at the biggest scale.
Right.
At billions of phones.
Yeah, you roll this out, it goes out to billions of people.
Yeah, okay. Well, if Roblox can do it at that scale and Fortnite can do it at that scale, then surely Apple can too.
So let's see, general updates, if you like, just try to give you the highlights if you didn't watch it. They're changing all their version numbers, unifying everything, because there was like an iOS phone version and an iPad version. Now it's just going to go by the year number. So the next iOS is iOS 26. For the Mac, it's going to be macOS Tahoe. Picking, another California location they have not used yet. There was a big AI update.
Oh, yeah?
New Genmoji updates.
Oh,
you can now merge two emojis into a brand new single Genmoji.
All right. So should we make an Addy and Joey emoji for the podcast?
They're updating the camera app. Honestly, I think it's going to make it more confusing. They're like streamlining, because right now if you go to the camera app, you have the little slider thing for the different modes, and they're streamlining it into just like camera, photos and video. But if you swipe, you can still access the other options. It's a lot more swiping, a lot more hidden features. I think it's going to confuse people. And it doesn't really add, like there wasn't any new, like, like we know we have QuickTime and RAW, like there wasn't anything new to that. I guess usually they do roll that out when they announce hardware updates instead of the software, but nothing in the actual performance.
I got to say, this is the iPhone 16 that I got thinking and had Apple Intelligence. They put two new buttons on it. So they have this button here that supposedly
the bottom.
And then they have an action button, which is from the 14 or 15.
I have the action button.
You really don't need that.
I use the action button to pull up Blackmagic camera app.
Okay, yeah.
And actually, I recently redid it to load up Perplexity, because Perplexity's voice mode can also control things on the iPhone.
So that's what you're doing. See, you're invoking other AI solutions on iPhone.
Because it's way better. Yeah, it's way better.
So Apple is counting on that. As long as you keep doing that, they're going to move new phones.
And that's probably why they're like, we'll just let the apps have more access to core features.
Exactly.
Which, usually they didn't.
Does that also mean that at some point they're going to have to bring down the privacy wall for these apps?
I think, or with your permission. I mean, similar with ChatGPT, where you have to opt into that.
Right.
And know what you're getting into a little bit. But if you use their foundation models, they did keep hyping up that that's private, it can stay on device, it can run locally, it can run without a connection. So they are, on the models they're training, it seems like pushing for the privacy stuff that they've capitalized on, of owning that word privacy.
Yeah. In our industry and our friend circle, we have quite a few like hardcore Apple fanboys. And I don't know, like,
still an Apple fanboy.
Yeah. I mean, I am too, but I don't know how they're going to really compares apples to apples with Google and Microsoft and OpenAI. I mean, this is nuts, Joey. Like they are not seeing the forest from the tree.
I don't know. I kind of disagree-ish, because it's like they never really were that kind of company. Like they're not a enterprise cloud company. They're not like Apple is not selling APIs. They're not selling models and cloud services. So that's not really their thing. Like, Google's developed a lot more AI products, but that's also more Google Cloud and everything around that.
They have more enterprise use cases.
Yeah, and that's more their market. Yeah. Like there's no Apple cloud service for.
I'll just caveat
customers.
it with this: is like the killer use cases haven't even been thought of yet at a consumer level. Mm-hmm. So it's up to a company like Apple to give it to us, right? They innovate. They say, this is the way to do FaceTime. This is the way to text message now. And we as a consumer either love it or hate it, right? Mm-hmm. So none of that experimentation's even going on. So we're not even at like the level 1 of rolling out, do these tools work yet or not?
I will say also, like Apple's still even, I feel, late to just cloud workflows in general. Like they have a lot of good products. I don't use a lot of them because they're locally based. They're hard to collaborate on, especially if the person doesn't have a Mac. Like I like their Freeform app, which is like sort of their whiteboard brainstorming app, but it saves local files. I could share an image of it, but I can't really like add collaborators to it. Pages is cool, and they sort of have a web version of Pages, but it's a lot of it. Just, a lot of it's just still very
Notes is really powerful. Notes is very syncable. Yeah.
Some other, let me see, quality of life things that I'm excited about as a phone screener, habitual phone screener person is call screening. So if it's an unknown number,
thank God.
It'll it's sort of like what Google Voice does. It'll be like, what are you calling about? And then it'll like kind of,
it picks up for you?
It'll pick up and sort of be like, how can I help you? And then like, it'll pop up with a notification of like what they say. So you can kind of,
I love that.
Approve. Yeah. Just something I've always wondered, it's like, if I don't have your number saved, like, can you just send this number to voicemail automatically?
Yeah. Cause they're using a bot against you. Use a bot on their bot.
Yeah. And also speaking of bots, they have hold assist now which is, if you're on hold, you can, I guess, put your hold assist on. And so the call will stay active, but your phone will hang up. Oh. And then when the person comes back on, it'll ring you back.
Love that.
Which is also great. So it's like, now it's going to be each side is fighting with a callback agent.
Or maybe Apple thinks, I'm going on a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory here. Forgive me, people. Maybe Apple thinks that this AI thing will just blow over.
Well, actually, did you see that Apple did release an AI paper?
No.
They released a paper that was sort of criticizing all of the other reasoning models, saying that they're not actually reasoning. If you give them like a challenge that's too hard, then they just give up.
Yeah.
And so that was Apple's latest innovation, was a paper from them saying the other models kind of suck. And
they're like, wait till we drop our LLM, guys. Check this out, okay?
Some actual interesting-ish stuff. So, and integration. So macOS Tahoe, two of the things that stood out that I thought were interesting. I'm a big keyboard shortcut kind of person.
Yeah.
I switched out Spotlight. I use Alfred, which is sort of like an app launcher, and you can also do some other kind of shortcut things with it. They are revamping Spotlight to be able to access files, be able to access your clipboard history, which also is another tool for basically make it a lot more functional to like pull up and do shortcuts. And you can connect it to Shortcuts, which is a separate app that you can build out shortcuts. I don't use it. It's always
iOS is pretty handy.
iOS, it's handy, and then they have one for the Mac as well.
Okay.
And you'll be able to call up shortcuts, and you can load AI features in the shortcuts. Like this document I'm on, it can like look at the document and then suggest rewrites or summaries. So it's some integration with AI shortcuts that you can run on your app. I feel like, also the way I described it, it is probably way too complicated to set this up for like normal people. Yeah. I don't use shortcuts because sometimes I never found like a killer use case for them, and it always still seemed a little bit kind of a pain to set up and deal with. I don't know if that'll be kind of the cool thing, but it goes to your point of that they are opening up the ecosystem where things can communicate more and access things more than before.
Yeah, it's basically like, hey, OpenAI, take over my computer, or along those lines.
Because it's like either the run local, their version, which is not that good, or so you can pull it up with ChatGPT. But also ChatGPT has a pretty good desktop app already that they built that has its own pop-up command bar thing, and you can like have a look at your screen and do stuff.
Sam Altman was on an interview and he said something really interesting. He said the way millennials versus Gen Z use our products is completely different. So you and I millennials, the way we use it is it's essentially a replacement in most cases for Google search.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't think Google search can handle this question, like, give me the coffee shop with the most gourmet coffee with local, it's like a very specific thing. You go to ChatGPT for that, and maybe that natural language will just do a better job. The way Gen Z uses ChatGPT, supposedly, according to Sam Altman, is it's a life advisor. Mm-hmm. So it's like when you're making major life decisions, like, should I date this guy? Or should I go to this college? It's like that level of life advising. So if you think about it, that generation and the generation after is going to grow up with that level of interactivity and commitment to AI. And they're going to want their device to have that level of commitment as well.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the AI chatbot or the personas, like the character-driven chatbots are
and AI has to be more responsive. So like local inference plus maybe it's a hybrid cloud local inference that has to happen on device, and then it has to be multimodal, take in video, audio, depth data, be aware of surroundings, be aware of your location geographically, and take all those things into account and just be better with advising on life. Yeah,
and the multimodal, that did remind me, there was another feature too where you can like screenshot or tap on things on your phone or you're seeing on the web or on your phone and run searches with it across different apps. Yeah, not as sort of like built-in Google image search, which we've had for years.
Did they mention Tim Sweeney?
I was wondering because they were talking about games and arcade and stuff, and I was like, it'd be really funny if they would just mention Fortnite
face here on that wall behind them.
Yeah, like if Fortnite's a demo app, that'd be like really crazy. No, Fortnite was not a demo app. Yeah, it would have been funny too if they were like, we're offering you now the option to bring in your own payment system.
They did say that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
They're like, well,
we were forced
they're bleeding billions of dollars. Yeah.
All right. And then visionOS, there were a handful of updates there, and it's cool. And the tech is really impressive, but you need a big giant headset to take advantage of it.
Oh.
Yeah. visionOS, that's the Apple Vision operating system. And so they have widgets rolling out, and the widgets are cool because you can kind of put them in your physical space and then they just stay there. So like when you put your headset back on or after you reboot it, it'll like if you
it registers something on your bookshelf.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I want to put a calendar here. I want to put like the photo app here widget.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, it just stays there.
Yeah.
And so you put the headset on or you take it off, you move around. But when you come back to the room, because it knows the room you're in based on how it mapped it out, it just locks it there.
I love that.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's cool. But yeah, it only works with the headset.
I mean, that is spatial computing, right? New concepts on how we organize data.
I think it's very forward thinking, and I think it's definitely the way that things will go once the physicality of the device, whichever company comes first, can figure out how to have that type of precise locking on the location and mapping with the augmented reality, and
to be able to store
something that looks like
data.
Glasses. Yeah. Something that's much easier to wear. And then there were a couple updates for Apple Immersive Video. So Adobe's coming out with its own app or version of Premiere that can deal with immersive video. And then they also have partnerships with GoPro, Insta360, and Canon to do native video playback of 180 or 360 video.
Yeah, those things have been cooking for a while. So,
yeah. And then the other thing was the personas, which was the way that it would scan you to create your photorealistic looking avatar. So like if you were doing a FaceTime call and you're wearing the Vision Pro, but I'm on my phone, it was the little like virtual version of you that would show up. It was very Uncanny Valley, like weird-ish looking. They did
Meta did that a while ago, remember?
Oh, with the
like a year or two ago.
With the like cartoon looking
no, it was photoreal
one. So theirs looks, they did an improvement to it, and like in the comparison they showed in the demo, the quality was like way better, like very lifelike looking, which I'm curious how they're pulling that off and how much it reacts to like facial movement.
There's probably an artist in India somewhere that's painting the face as you go.
They're just looking at your entire photo library and like reconstructing your face.
They're using ChatGPT. You're like, what does Joey look like?
Create a 360 panoramic based on this image. And then iPad is just more and more continuing to be like a laptop. So they're adding windowing. So you can resize windows, you can stack windows, basically how you can do on a laptop. But now you can do it on an iPad. A couple interesting things that actually tie into sort of the podcasting space and kind of go straight at what apps like Riverside do. Well, for more audio and video input controls on the iPad. So if you plug in a microphone, you can have more control of being like, yes, use this input microphone for recording. But also, I don't know if it was a dedicated separate app or if you're doing a FaceTime call, but now they have local capture.
Nice.
So if you're FaceTime recording, interviewing with someone, it will record a local copy of your video and your screen on the iPad and put it in your Files app, which is exactly what Riverside does and why I would use that all the time for remote recording because it saves the local files for everyone.
We've used it.
Yeah. And that's like their big selling point where it's like you're not dependent
on... Not good news for Riverside.
Yeah, I mean, ish. But it just said it was iPad, which I'm surprised. I'm like, well, why wouldn't it also be like on a MacBook? Yeah. And then again, this only works if you're on an Apple device.
Yeah, Apple has the same problem that Porsche does when it comes to product segmentation. So Porsche has the 911, which is the flagship car, and then they have the 918, which is called the Boxster or the Cayman. In some cases, that car could be as expensive and as fast as the 911. It gets really close. So Apple has the MacBook, and then if you go down to like the MacBook Air and then the iPad Pro, I mean, you're looking at same price points and things that are more or less the same. Yeah. Just running different OS. And what Porsche did was they just canceled the 918. They're like, we're just going to sell the more expensive thing from now on.
Yeah. I don't see them killing the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if you deck out an iPad Pro with their keyboard case, that's what, like $1,200?
Yeah,
possibly more if you get the cellular version with and you max out the internal storage.
And a MacBook Air is like
$1,000. MacBook Air you could get for $1,000.
Yeah, so you're I mean that's hard.
Yeah, but probably if you are someone who has an iPad Pro, you probably also have a MacBook Pro. I think I think it's more like probably the what ecosystem are you in? Are you in the Pro high budget ecosystem, or are you in the consumer
SEs and the basic lines and stuff?
Yeah, the Air and the iPad Air.
Sure.
Line.
Like if you want to spend more money, go for it. Yeah. We have all the stuff.
I mean, like I've looked at the iPad Pro, but I'm like, well, this does that. Like I have an iPad Air, like the base model, because it's like, well, it's cool for reading and pulling up some stuff like on the airplane, but I don't, I'm like, what do I need to dish out for the iPad Pro?
Yeah, the iPad Pro is perfect for not you and me.
This. Yeah,
I think it's for like a graphic designer or like a UX UI developer.
Yeah, if I was a big stylus user, I could see the advantages. I feel like the debate would be more like, do you get an iPad Pro? Do you get like a Wacom tablet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Mostly the roundup.
Nice. We spent a long time on that.
We did, yeah. I mean, I kind of wanted to give a recap of if you didn't watch it, but nothing mind-blowing.
There you have it, folks.
Gradual updates. And all that stuff rolls out later in this year. Nothing is out right now.
That's what they said about Apple Intelligence.
All this stuff is supposed to roll out later this year.
There you go.
I am sure that nothing is rolled out now. I'm positive about that.
Yeah.
But it should roll out later this year.
The liquid glass thing is pretty neat. I'll give them that.
Okay, we'll see how that goes. I'm curious. I'm curious just about like how legible it becomes.
You're going to see liquid glass rip off everywhere across automotive, across hospitals.
Liquid glass. Yeah, I didn't even talk about Apple CarPlay, but they're like, liquid glass is coming to Apple CarPlay too.
Like you're going to see like Tesla UI mimic that. And, like it just, Apple has such a ripple effect when it comes to design.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, now everything's going to be translucent glass. Translucent.
For the next 10 years everywhere. Of our lives.
Yeah, because they're like the last redesign was 10 years ago with like iOS 7 or whatever it was, or 9. Okay, next story.
Yeah, so look, Gaussian splats have been around for a couple of years. It's basically AI-powered photogrammetry. It's somewhere in the middle between machine vision, traditional photogrammetry, and AI inference. Like if you combine all these three things together, what Gaussian splats are like is it's literally a splat of paint, a splat of color as a point cloud. And then that point cloud, if you have enough color splats, starts to represent a 3D object.
Like the splat holds data.
The splat holds, it's a point in space with color information, and it has a Gaussian fall off. So it's like not like a splotch of color, but just like a nice smooth gradient of color. And that's key because it supports obviously alpha channel, and then you can start to mix and match point clouds very close together. The neat thing is Gaussian splats were really good at being 3D without 3D, if that makes sense. So you don't need a traditional 3D renderer or game engine or anything like that. You can just on the fly do what's called novel view synthesis. So anywhere you place the camera, if it has enough data, it'll figure out what it should look like from that point of view.
And now usually the Gaussian splats we've been seeing are capturing an environment,
a static
environment from like a photo instead of a photo, 3D space.
Computationally very expensive, just like photogrammetry. So it was limited to static stuff. And we knew that sooner or later, 4D, four dimension, the last dimension being time, is going to come out. And here we are. Today, there's a bunch of announcements to cover on the 4DGS front.
Yes.
So the big announcement came from a Chinese university who dropped a paper called FreeTimeGS, Free Gaussian Primitives at Anytime, Anywhere for Dynamic Scene Reconstruction. We'll link the paper on the video here. Look, basically, it takes into account that you have the past and present frames or point clouds in a given capture. And so it goes back and forth in time to more finesse the point cloud solve. Which is kind of the same technique that a lot of video compression uses. Well, like if it's not real time, when you're compressing MP4, it'll go backwards, it'll go forwards, and then it'll come back to the middle frame and figure out what the best frame at that moment is that saves the most amount of data. So I'm just sort of layman terming it here because I don't understand the mathematics behind it. I'm not a Gaussian splat expert. But again, in the paper, it says that it can go basically back, forth, anytime, anywhere, which means it can reference Gaussian splats from the past in another space as you're moving, right?
Basically like building out a video timeline that we're used to.
Point cloud video timeline.
Yeah.
And then optimizing the heck out of it to make it as efficient as possible and as high quality as possible.
Yeah. I mean, obviously cool applications of this. One would be, if you have the video and you want to reframe and move your camera around in a 3D space and reframe your shot with the video happening.
Yeah.
A cool use case. Other case, loading this on, and they have demos of loading it on an Apple Vision Pro or a headset. So like you can physically move. The video is playing, you're in the scene as it's happening, and you can move around and see what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, the big promise for Gaussian splats and, from my virtual production days, even in VFX, is like you don't have to build complex real world things if you can just go capture it well enough, right? So, let's say you're setting your movie in downtown LA. And you have 10, 15 different cameras capturing one street. And the cars are going by, people are walking, the weather is changing, and the daylight is changing. You capture all that in time. Now you don't have to build that exact digital twin of that city with metahumans and or digital humans or whatever. Like that's just way too complex. You can just use 4D-GS and composite on top of that, put that in the background layer in Nuke or whatever, and then just do your thing and save tons of money, tons of time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, once the quality gets there. But yeah, this is a good step in the right direction. Yeah, one thing to clear up though, because I think I did see this going around a lot. Or I saw the clip of the demos going around a lot, and it seemed like some of the misinterpretation of it was that you could do this from like a 2D video and extract the 3D information.
Right.
That is not accurate.
That is not. Yeah, it's very much a traditional volumetric setup.
Yes, and so there was one of the videos was the guy talking to camera, nice interview setup, and yeah, it turned he's a tech YouTuber, a Chinese tech YouTuber, and so this video is from like a month ago, and then you could see the behind the scenes shots in the video, and it's a array of 20 or so cameras, and in the paper it says you need about 20 cameras in order to capture this, to have enough data.
The technology is in its infancy. I think what they're really after is what happens after you capture the data.
Yes, how you can process
solve it, process it. Yeah. So as that gets better, I think there will be a less need for more cameras and in specific locations. Also,
right now, too, from what you saw in the paper, you still would have to process this in order to play it back. Like this, you can't, even if you had the 20 cameras, like you can't, in a sporting event, have a real-time move around the space. You have to capture it, process it, and then you get this 4D Gaussian splat that you can move around.
Yeah, I got to say, the live broadcast of volumetric data has been done at small scale. So companies like Intel and Verizon have worked on it 5-10 years ago. The problem was you're dealing with terabytes of data, like
from like all the broadcast cameras and all the other special cameras.
There's so much content. So you need a data center to process all that stuff. And then you need a big fat pipe in the network to ship it.
Right. And that's something where it's like, you need this to happen in 30 seconds, a minute for your instant replay. Because once it keeps going, the game keeps going. It's like, well, whatever. Who cares?
Exactly. You could maybe build that out for every NFL stadium or whatever, but it's not going to go down to like a consumer level, right? Like our phones can't run real-time volumetric stuff just yet. So that's why this is so key, is Gaussian Splat technology is not traditional volumetric solve. It's something entirely different and something that is efficient enough, I think, to come down to a level where consumer devices are able to run it at some point in the near future.
Right. Run it, not create it.
Receive it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And even like in a headset, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of this still, because it's AI, still depends on NVIDIA architecture, like CUDA and RTX cards and stuff like that. So we're going to see it on desktops before it gets down to our phone.
Yeah. Or I'm curious how they would run it on a headset, or if it's running through like some cloud-based version or option to
and then just pixel streams down to our headset.
I'm going to check out Augmented World Expo tomorrow.
Nice.
So I'll see if there's anything in the 4D video space that happened in there. I went last year. It wasn't as much as I thought.
Where is it at?
Long Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Long Beach Convention Center?
Yeah, it's a nice location.
Oh yeah, go to Aquarium of the Pacific across the street.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I've wanted to go there. And then last kind of couple interesting papers. One was Memvid, video-based AI memory.
This is so brilliant. This is such outside-the-box thinking, and I think this is the type of stuff that Apple should be getting into instead of liquid glass. Look, you have video, which is really an efficient form of storing images, right? Like if you think about the number of frames that you squeeze into an MP4 file, 24 frames a second times 60 seconds times 60 minutes, you're talking about thousands and thousands of frames. What if in one of those frames you could throw text on there, and that text could be readable by a machine? So instead of storing text with ASCII with binary data, you just pack as much text as you want with video. And it's a far lightweight, far more efficient way to store text.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the idea of this is from their website. Unlike traditional vector databases that consume massive amounts of RAM and storage, Memvid compresses your knowledge base into compact video files while maintaining instant access to any piece of information.
Right. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm trying to understand, how the benefit of storing it as an MP4 file, like what the file structure looks like. We're able to fit more text and make it more accessible in an MP4 file. versus a database? Like, I don't know enough about like how the file structure is built how this makes sense.
I don't know enough about it either, but I know enough to be dangerous.
I like the innovation around this and the thinking differently.
The novelty is pretty cool. Yeah. Like my mind immediately went to secret military stuff where they have to transmit important text without text. So they throw everything into a video file. It's like North Korea gives Iran a video file or something.
Why doesn't this file play? Or it's like an Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
When he stores the video on the video game cartridge file, and then the kid takes it, and the kid's like, the game's broken, it doesn't work. And he's like, give me that. It's the opposite of that. It's like, wait, this video's not playing. And it's like, oh, that's because it's the entire Wikipedia in the video file.
My guess is this has to do entirely with how AI leverages VRAM and short-term memory on a system, where if you have tokens, let's say billions of tokens, which could be text, right? You're taking up a ton of RAM versus if you're doing this supposed video, you're not really even loading it, and it's just going through the video as needed. So it's like creating a pseudo RAM with the video, if you will. That's my guess on why this is far more efficient. Of course, time will tell. We're the first ones to break it to you. And so you've heard Memvid here first.
Yeah.
If this does make it into training of a model, I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. Or how you could also, if you could use this as the memory for how a model could access, like if it could access more memory, because that's like an issue too of the knowledge window. Like if you're trying to give something to an LLM and give it background knowledge, there's like a max of like how much you can give it.
Yeah.
So if this solves that too, that'd also be a big a big win.
One of the things that researchers in AI always talk about is like how heavy a model is in size. So like if I give you the latest image generation model, then it needs 22 gigabytes of VRAM to run it locally. Right. So you better have a GPU that exceeds that. And something like the RTX 3090 above will do that. But if I give you a video model that's 200 gigabytes, you don't really have a single machine that could run it. So it's really hard for you to do research on it because now you need multiple servers. You need to run it on AWS or wherever. And now the cost goes up and it just becomes more cumbersome. So I think this is one way to just squeeze a ton of stuff into, 20 gigabytes and under.
Yeah, maybe in the Matrix, the code they were looking at was really just an MP4 file. That's how they compress the Matrix data, because it's so much data that you can't look at it in real time.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe the Matrix is Gaussian splats.
Yeah. We're just
4DGS.
Maybe we're just looking at Gaussian splats now. We just don't know any better.
Oh, shit.
This is for the after dark to noise.
Yeah, I think we're done here, folks.
One last one. This one's way more practical. Contrastive flow matching.
Yeah. So image generation models are fairly understood on how they need to be trained. You have the neural network, which is broken up into layers. Let's say you'll have, 5 attention layers and then 5 diffusion layers and then 5, alignment layers or whatever, right? So it's pretty well understood that in order for you to train an image generation model, this is more or less how you structure it. And then you just throw a ton of GPU at it and go away for a couple of days. It trains itself. And then you have, 10, 15 billion nodes with each its specific weights. And then you take that 20 gigabyte file or whatever, and you load it in Comfy UI and you do your magic, right? That's how it's done now. So this paper comes out and says, but wait, you can do image generation model 9 times faster with 5 times fewer steps with contrastive flow matching.
What is contrastive flow matching?
Okay, to the best of my understanding, when you noise and denoised an image, you do it in steps. So you can typically dial it in like 40 different levels of noising will happen. And then 40 different levels of denoising will happen. Traditionally, how it's done is all of that kind of funnels into one neural network.
Okay.
Here, they're adding something called contrast and keeping each of those lanes separate, leading to a far more efficient training.
Okay, so if you add contrast in your training, contrast like in how the image is processed, or add contrast like...
I believe so, like what you and I think of contrast.
Okay, so like boost the contrast, you don't have to do much else to change it, but it creates a far more efficient
far more efficient training process because you're not mushing all that stuff together. So like step 1 noise, denoise is separate from step 2 denoise noise and so on.
Okay. I think it's cool because just from the fact of like, hey, you know, you could still do what you're doing, but just if you do it a slightly different way, you get better outputs.
It's like the DeepSeek thing, outputs. Right? Like when you think you need NVIDIA's AI factory and 10,000 5090s, but wait, you can do it 5 times faster, 9 times better, and you could do it with a handful of stuff.
Now, to the defense of the large training models, there is the argument of like, you can't get to these more efficient routes or these smaller models without having the big models first.
Yes.
To shrink them. That was also came up in an interview with I forgot his name, but the who runs DeepMind, Google DeepMind, where, you know, they're like, well, we got the smaller models. It's like, you can't get the minis. You need the big models first. To train the minis.
I agree. But everything has its use case, right? Like the mini models are better for running on an Apple device when Apple gets around to making
exactly.
AI
I mean, right. You need them. But you can't just create that from scratch.
No.
You need the big one.
You need the big one
to shrink it down.
To understand exactly what it's doing. I mean, we're going to cover this in another episode, but the watershed moment for image generation was something called ImageNet or AlexNet in 2012. Fascinating history on like the first time image generation worked from a neural network.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. We'll break that down in the future.
Yes.
All right. Good place to wrap up. Hopefully I've kind of covered a wide base of interesting things. Links, as usual, for everything we talked about at denoisepodcast.com.
Thanks to Via Hero Web for our 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you in the next episode.